Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Red Embrace Hollywood. It's been a long time, there was ParadoxCon and a lot of other Bloodlines 2 related things on the way, and I was actually awaiting going back to this game and see what's next. So without further ado, let's check it out, shall we? I stood before the door, my fingers brushing the handle. Just a few seconds ago, I'd heard a knock. A soft, delicate knock, almost fragile. For a moment, my mind flashed back to the last time I'd heard that sound. The unfocused eyes that had stared back at me, glassy and unreachable. As I slowly opened the door, I almost wondered if I wouldn't see that look again. Hello. Hello, Vince. But instead, Heath's eyes were bright and alert, full of their normal sparkle. You look ready to take on the world, like you always do. Maybe not the world, but I think I can manage Hollywood. I don't think you give yourself enough credit. It's only a matter of time before you capture the world's heart, just like you did mine, and plenty of others here. To my surprise, his flirtiness actually seemed a little subdued, almost shy, despite our previous confessions. The car's waiting for us outside, but before we go, I wanted to give you something. I'm still embarrassed about the other day, so I brought you a present to make us both feel better. Reaching on one hand into his coat, he pulled out a VHS tape, his lips drifting into a soft green. The tape's plastic case was printed with the title, Hellraiser. I'm not very fond of horror movies usually, but I just love this one. Something about the extremes of pleasure and pain. Well, I shouldn't spoil it. How about we watch it together sometime? I was hoping you'd ask that. After we finish tonight's work, maybe we'll have enough time before the sun rises. And we can curl up together to pretend we're somewhere else. His eyelids gently fluttered closed, a hopeful smile drifting across his face for several lingering moments. Listen to me, pulling us off track again. I guess we should go take the car to Marcus' shop. Oh yeah, we're about to go to Marcus' sex shop to do some special work for him. And he didn't specify what kind of a work it's going to be. And it's Marcus, and it's a sex shop, so we can only assume. You've grimaced, frowning at the ground with obvious displeasure. Oh come on, it's going to be pleasurable. I know Marcus, okay? I'm not sure I want to imagine the work is planned for us. Oh, I'm sure you do. Don't make that face. I'm sure we'll have fun. Honestly, if anyone else said that, I wouldn't believe them. But luckily for the both of us, you're you. He let out a grateful chuckle, although it still sounded slightly strange. Shall we, then? With luck, we'll make it back in one piece. I do hope so. After a short elevator ride, we made our way out of the lobby and onto the busy street, where the Black Sedan was waiting for us. He opened the door for me and I climbed inside, greeted by the familiar dead silence of Charisse's driver. Once Heath had slipped into the back seat beside me, the car's engine rumbled to life and we took off. You know, I used to find it very uncomfortable. He leaned in to whisper playfully to me, nodding towards the driver's back. It's always like this, dead silence. I don't know how many times I've ridden in this car, but he's never spoken a word to me. Now that I've gotten used to it though, it's almost comforting. I don't think I'd have him any other way. Do you know who he is? Or... Honestly, I do feel the same way. Whenever I take Uber or taxi or whatever kind of a transportation, not in my own car, I just really like silence and just like driving, being able to look outside of the window and not talk to the driver. So whenever I go with Uber and there's a driver who just doesn't talk, I give them 5 stars. I'm very biased, but I guess that's the introverted way of driving through the town. I do feel the same way. sometimes I still wish he'd talk to me, but I know it's better if he doesn't. Reality rarely matches how wonderful the fantasy is. He paused, then leaning in just a little more, strands of his hair brushing my face. So it seems like he's kind of suggesting with this conversation, kind of like a mirror to our relationship, like he's afraid that it's all not real and it's going to shatter. Still, there are always exceptions. Okay. But the closeness only lasted for a moment, since he soon grew back, crossing one leg over the other, winking at me playfully. Come on, we're in the back seat, you can do whatever, and you just brush me with your hair. After that, we lapsed into a comfortable silence. He seemed to drift off into thought, an idle smile lingering on his face, but his gaze focused distantly past the window. Maybe it was for the best, since I had the uncanny feeling that the driver could hear everything we said, despite our whispering. Dude, this driver being the Sharice's driver, I'm freaking sure he is used to very weird things happening on the backseat, especially when Marcus is traveling, okay? So I wouldn't really worry about that. At some point I felt Heath's arm begin to gently drape across my shoulders, his body shifting a little closer to mine. Aww. Curl my arm around his waist or lean my head lightly against his. I want to kind of keep those little movements delicate. I don't want to go all in and just like basically try to drag him in the bedroom every time we have some kind of a closeness together, because I think that he might think that I want him only for these very superficial, very, sexy reasons and not the emotional ones. I don't know, like I feel like this kind of a person might need some emotional reassurance, so I will be giving him little tiny tidbits of, yeah, sure, you're good, we're good. So this one. I let my head rest gently against Heath's, leaning just a little bit into him. Oh. An innocent, blissful smile crossed his lips in return, and he leaned back against me, drifting his fingers softly from my hair. Still, he stayed quiet, either to avoid any awkwardness or because his own thoughts had pulled him in again. We spent several minutes like that, with only the engine's hum and passing traffic to fill the silence. A ring. The driver reached for his mobile phone with one hand, raising the antenna. Of course, he didn't say anything to whomever was on the line and clicked his phone off after a few moments. But as soon as he hung up, the driver suddenly pulled up on the side of the road, emergency blinkers flickering on. Wordlessly, he motioned towards the doors as if waiting for us to step out. I guess Sharice must have needed him urgently. With a slightly awkward laugh, Heath glanced at the driver. The driver said nothing. Well, we can walk the rest of the way. It's not too many blocks away. Hurrying outside, Heath opened the door for me, so that means he knows where the sex shop is. He probably visited it before, but he of course won't specify what he bought there, so we have to ask Marcus. The moment I stepped onto the sidewalk, the door swung shut, and the sedan took off down the street. You don't mind, do you? Walking there. We can get a taxi if you'd like. After the sewers, walking on the street is a luxury. The sewers, ugh. You have a knack for putting things in perspective, Vince. With an impish grin, he slipped past me, strolling down the street. He kept his pace slow until I caught up, slipping a hand into his pocket to search for a cigarette. Could I have one? Of course, but I would have been more than happy to share. After his brief pause, he quickly pulled out a second cigarette, lighting it for me after I put it between my lips. It suits you, I'm not surprised. He purred contentedly, something like a little excited by his new discovery. I mean, I'm a vampire, so I might as well smoke and do all these things which are unhealthy for me when I was a human, because as Since I'm a vampire, it's all pretty much the same. Oh look, that's the abattoir, isn't it? He craned his neck a little as we walked, peering towards the other side of the street. It looks like someone got surrounded at the door. Poor thing. When I followed his gaze, I spotted a man trying to fight his way out of a club. A gaggle of paparazzi swarmed around him, their cameras flashing angrily. I recognized his face. He was from the hot tub at the party, the same director who tried to recruit me. Listen, could you? I'm very, very busy, so just... As he pushed one of the paparazzi away, trying to defend himself. Our eyes suddenly met. That's not good. Wait a minute. Vince, is that you? Vince, wait, I never got your number! The minute he called out to me, all of the paparazzi turned towards us at once, like hyenas spotting prey. Nope. Oh no. He took a step back, his eyes widening by the second. Oh shit. Before I knew what was happening, he'd grabbed my hand and taken off in a sprint. A clamor of shouting and footsteps chased us down the streets. Vince! Did he say your name was Vince? How do you know the director? Are you his secret lover? Just one photo, I just want one photo! We can't let them get your picture. He muttered beside me, shooting a worried look over his shoulder. If Hollywood learns what you really are. As we rounded the corner, his ominous words sank into my head. I couldn't ever return to the mortal world for more than one night, and I couldn't show my true face ever again. I'd known that from the start, but now I finally felt what it meant. There it is! He suddenly cried out, pointing at the building down a small side street. One with a familiar neon red sign. I mean, to be honest, I'm not really sure about his reaction. Wasn't it a little bit too much, considering that we literally died just a few days ago, and it wouldn't be really weird for us to, you know, still be the same age, for example. Like, usually for vampires, I think it's more important to hide their own identity and hide who they are the longer they live, right? Because they don't get older, because they never die. And in this particular situation, I think we still would have a little bit of the leniency towards the whole let's hide from the mortals thing, but I don't know. We raced towards it as fast as we could, footsteps echoing through the alley. The sign grew closer and closer until finally... Dildos! Ooh. After we burst into Marcus' shop, he quickly slammed the door shut behind us. We'd lost the paparazzi a block or so back, but hopefully no stragglers had stalked us here. Someone's coming past the window. He quickly pulled me behind one of the merchandise shelves, ducking down, right at the big vibrators. We watched as a silhouette flickered across the door's frosted glass, suddenly coming to a halt. The tall figure stood there unmoving, almost as if it could see inside. Dare I ask why the two of you appear to be taking refuge amidst the strap-ons? Oh dear. Marcus, who apparently had been standing behind us, offered a quizzical raise of one eyebrow. Oh, hi Marcus. Did you want to join? Yes. The disappointed look of Heath is everything. He's not into it. He's not into it, no! I hurt his heart. I beg your pardon. Marcus peered at me dubiously. I'm sorry, we had a little trouble. Smoothing out his scarf, he swiftly rose to his feet, clearing his throat after I followed suit. I do hope there wasn't a misunderstanding about the type of a job that I needed done. No, it's... Vince and I were... Please, I believe I'm quite fine without further details. Marcus raised a hand to silence Heath's explanation before it started. I am well aware of your romantic involvement and would be even if I were blind or deaf. And I cast no judgments. Like stones, they are much too heavy. But I do wonder, which one of you is using the other to escape? Oh, the real questions! Oh no, Marcus so through us. Holy crap. I mean, he has some right to it. His tone abruptly turned solemn, the last word drawn out deliberately. Escape. He froze, his gaze jumping to meet mine. A strangely tense, uncertain moment of silence passed. Yes, escape. Since you were quite clearly on the run from something out there, now weren't you? Twisting it around. The next moment of the dark weight lifted from his voice, and he let out a satisfied chuckle. Oh, don't sigh so early, little Polaroid. You do well to grow a better sense of humor. It makes the world stink far, far less. Marcus shook his head, obviously very tickled despite, or maybe because of, his displeasure. About this job, however. Allow me one moment, if you will. Still chortling to himself, Marcus held up a finger to us and disappeared behind one of the shelves. I wish he wouldn't make fun of us like that. He's half gently muttering to me under his breath. But maybe it's just out of jealousy, because he doesn't have what you and I have. What do you think he was implying? I don't really understand either. Maybe we're just reading a little too much into it. He gave me a reassuring smile, lightly tracing a finger down his throat. Ah, here we are. Marcus called out to us again, emerging from behind the shelves, holding 2 cans of red paint. One of my walls is in dire need of repainting. What? This time the silence was a baffled one. That would be your task for tonight, my friends. But your walls have wallpaper. Yes, but every now and then I am compelled to add a little variety, a little chaos, so I have it painted over, but only on one segment. Unfortunately, after the last incident with one of the servicemen I hired, the oversized vibrator, the chicken, and that can of tuna, I'm afraid I have been blacklisted by most painters in Los Angeles. Excuse me, what? Okay. And for some reason, I can't even begin to fathom just about every vampire in the city refuses to come into my shop. So I have fallen very much on hard times, you see. Painting. Alright. He shook his head, looking both relieved and mystified. And here I thought you had something terrible planned for us. No, not in the least. That honor belongs to fate. This guy predicts the endings of this game and I hate it. Because he basically... No, I know that it's not going to end well, and I'm so sad. I'm only along for the ride. God damn it, he's like the fortune teller from the beach of Santa Monica in Bloodlines 1. After his casual remark, Marcus unceremoniously dropped the paint cans by our feet. Eve and I exchanged looks, then followed Marcus around the corner, where a single patch of wall had been marked with a threatening black X. Then once he'd offhandedly instructed us to give it a womby feeling, Marcus skulked back to his counter out of sight. I guess we should be grateful for small blessings, shouldn't we? Exhaling a playful, resigned sigh, he started to drag his brush along the wall. We settled down on the floor together with our cans, deciding to work from the ground up for no real reason. Painting a wall, it's almost a little too easy. I know, it's like he's being nice to us. Maybe he is. I'll never understand the way Marcus' mind works, but I think it's better not to look a gift horse in the mouth. After letting a little laugh, he lapsed into silence, dabbing more paint onto the wall. The pause felt comfortable enough, though I had the sense that he was mulling over his next words. I've never told you this before, Vince, but when he spoke again, it was in a shy, almost reluctant way. The night when you and I met, I'd spent the whole evening doing little jobs like this, sent around town by Charisse to win more vampires to her cause. But before I went to visit you, it seemed like one of the worst nights of my life. Why? What happened? It wasn't anything that happened that night, but more of a weight inside me, something that built up over weeks, months, even years. Like a grain of sand had been falling on my chest every time I went to sleep, until finally it was so heavy that I couldn't bear it anymore. From being a vampire or something else? Helplessness, I think. Even if I fought and struggled and tried as hard as I could, it wouldn't really matter. He gave a small laugh as if trying to brush off his own explanation. So that night I had started to question things. I was thinking too deeply and I got pulled down somewhere I shouldn't have been. And it felt like there wasn't a single voice that could comfort me. He'd been motionlessly pressing his brush to the wall for some time, causing red droplets of paint to slowly trail towards the floor. But then when Charisse told me how you were turned and how you already seemed capable and smart enough to handle a job for her, you sounded so strong, so inspiring that I couldn't keep myself from visiting you. And now, even though I'm the one who's supposed to be mentoring you, it feels as if you're the one who's guiding me. Find a heart into the wall. Oh no, that's too cute. That's so adorable. Okay, you know what? I know that I said that we won't be like super straight lovey-dovey with him because he probably needs more steady reassurance, and this is probably a better answer, but this is just too cute. And I think we all could use some more cuteness in our lives, you know, like painting hearts for someone else. Like, it's just too cute. Like, just do it. Oh, look at this happy face. As I drew a heart in red paint over the wallpaper, Keith's face shifted from curiosity to delight in a matter of moments. Dipping his finger in the paint, he drew two letters in the center of the heart. H and V. Oh, we're like teenagers! I hope Marcus isn't behind us right now. Slowly and deliberately, Heath began to lean towards me, his large green eyes reflecting my face as he closed the distance between us. I am getting attached. All these adorable moments happen and the game is going to shatter my heart. I know it already and it hurts me. With one hand, he gently reached out, his fingers curling under my chin and lifting it up. Little by little, our faces grew closer together until Marcus. Okay, now kiss him. Let's do it. Our lips brushed together sweetly, almost chastely. Each kiss was soft and slow, unhurried, as his cool mouth met mine again and again. Of course. A loud noise suddenly rang through the shop. It sounded like someone had roughly shoved the door open, and heavy boots plodded inside. We exchanged quick glances. Had someone followed us? Hey, Marcus. Thanks for saying you'd see me tonight. I know you've gotta be real busy with whatever the fuck it is you do here. A booming voice and the loud chuckle that followed. Randall. It had to be Randall. Well, you seemed quite eager to converse, and tonight was a good night as any. Yeah, I guess Wait. The voice went silent for several seconds. We're not alone here, are we? Hey, what's the deal? I thought you said this shit would be private. There's no need to be uneasy, Randall. If I intended to have spies or assassins lurking about, I assure you I would be far more subtle about it. Yeah, but... Have you perhaps forgotten the nature of my fine establishment? The presence you feel is nothing but a pair of dead lovers in the back room. Why, considerate man that I am, I even locked them in there to stay until we were finished. This shady little guy. Another long, uncertain silence. Were Randall's senses sharp enough to tell that we were still in earshot? Jesus, you really are a crazy bastard. As Randall's loud laughter echoed from around the corner, he relaxed a little beside me. Alright, so about the deal. You told Charissa what my offer was? I did, yes. And what'd she say? Instead of an immediate reply, I heard the sound of a rustling newspaper. She said it could only end in disaster. Although I couldn't see it, I could somehow feel Randall's dejected stare. That's the word, yes. And when I glanced over towards Heath, he was staring silently at the ground by our feet where stray drops of red paint were scattered everywhere. I know you fervently avoid any association with the Iskari, but perhaps I should remind you. After the incidents of the past few days, most of them believe LA's Mavar to be little more than mindless beasts. The taste for their ways has grown extreme. Without Charisse to moderate them, the Iskari would most likely seek the expulsion, or even the extermination of the Mavar of the city. I know that, goddammit, but... Fuck! Fuck! There was a dull thump, like someone had just hit the wall. So you're telling me there isn't any chance? If she won't step down and the Iskari hate all of our guts, then where does that leave us? Well, there is another leader capable of managing the tensions. I'd tear my fucking guts out before I saw Andre leading the city. Suddenly, Randall's voice began to tremble with pure venom. The only throne that motherfucker deserves is in hell. Yet, the other Mavar seem to merely fear him, not hate him. They would sooner accept a Golgotha than an Iskari. It's not a fucking option, Marcus. After he hissed out those last words, Randall took a deep breath, exhaling it in the slow, careful way of someone trying to calm themselves down. Inching forward, I slowly peered around the edge of the shelf, just enough to see Randall and Marcus at the other side of the shop. If Randall noticed me at all, he didn't say anything. The Mavar are gonna have to make a move. I've got plenty of cold bodies to my back, enough to set the city straight. And you know that boy Vince? People think he's gonna thrown in with the rebels when shit goes down. Shows just how weak the Iskari are when their own agents wanna revolt. Charisse has to realize she can't control him. She can't control any of us. And if she sticks around, the world's got no way of ending without a bloodbath. Marcus didn't offer a reply. Seconds passed and almost half a minute, before finally Randall heaved another, more weary sigh. All that shit about compromise and alliances with Charisse, I'm starting to think it was a waste of fucking time right from the beginning. I really tried, you know, to make LA a home for all of us. Listen, I should go. You should, yes. After Marcus' last words faded into silence, I saw Randall turn away to slowly drag himself back towards the exit, each step slow and heavy. But before the door opened, there was a short pause. Marcus? Once it's all over, maybe we'll grab a drink somewhere. Somewhere outside of Hollywood. The door clicked shut, leaving us in silence with our unfinished wall. With a big heart on it. He rose slowly to his feet. His shoulders were slammed back, hunched as if he were Atlas carrying the world. Ah, if that isn't a wall fit for a king. Stepping around the corner, Marcus paused in front of us, glancing towards the fresh paint. A little patchy here and there, perhaps, but I suppose it adds to the age charm and ambience I work so hard to maintain. Marcus. While interrupting Marcus' casual remarks, he frowned at him, his voice shaking ever so slightly. Yes, Mr. Polaroid? You set up Randall to come here after we did. You wanted him to say that in front of us. That was your plan from the start. His soft words sounded more hurt than accusing. That is rather presumptuous and self-important of you, don't you think? Marcus addressed him in a distinctly chillier tone than before. It was enough to make Heath wince a little. One hand reached for his cigarette case before freezing halfway and returning to his side instead. Randall needed to see me and I needed to see a repainted wall. Whatever you decided to eavesdrop on is none of my concern, but since you are so enamored with matters of fate and destiny, why not blame those forces instead of my person? The remark seemed to cut straight into Heath. Partially cradling his face with one hand, he inhaled deeply, sinking his teeth into his bottom lip. Don't treat Heath like that, he's just trying to understand. Yeah, let me protect my boy. I beg your pardon? I do believe I'm treating him the same way as I treat you or anyone, without platitudes, but with the truth. Then any chance of a compromise is gone. He sounded reluctant to even ask the question, as if he were afraid of hearing the answer. But Marcus only rolled his eyes, distaste creeping into his voice. No, not gone, not vanished, not some brave little flame of hope extinguished to the cold, cruel night. As Randall pointed out so astutely, simply was never there at all. But then again, Hollywood was never much of a place for a compromise to begin with. Lowering his head, Heath curled his fingers tightly around his pendant. Tell the Red Queen she will have her report tomorrow. As for the two of you, I suggest you head outside and enjoy the last nights of the city in its current ephemeral state, before the pendulum knocks us all down. Interesting. After Marcus escorted us out, Eve and I wordlessly walked down the streets. When I glanced over at him, half expecting his face to be contorted with emotion, I only saw an exhausted, blank stare. But when we returned to the main street, Heath came to an abrupt stop on the sidewalk, and I stopped beside him. I'm calling you a taxi. I think I'll go back to my bar for a little while, but you should go back to the hotel. Can I come with you? I'm always so happy when you're around, but I don't think I'd be very good company right now. I'm sorry. His words faded into tired silence. I could sense that for once he didn't want to fill the time with chatter or playful comments. So we stood side by side, watching an endless stream of cars pass us by, but no taxis. He began to murmur something almost unaudibly. After a short pause, he cleared his throat and started again. I can't blame anyone but myself for what happened in there. I should have known, expected it, when I saw how easy the job was. Marcus wouldn't have us to do something like that without an ulterior motive. For a moment, bitterness started to rise in his voice like bile, but it swiftly vanished. I didn't know the details until now, but I was starting to guess how things were between the three leaders. And now, there's such difference between what I want to believe and the reality I can't ignore any longer. Maybe overhearing all that was for the best. Maybe it's Marcus' way of trying to be altruistic. It was difficult to tell whether his overly playful tone was genuine or cynical. In that case, I guess you'd be right. He always seems to know how everything will turn out. Just as he murmured his quiet reply, a taxi finally pulled up in front of us. It looks like your ride's here. Maybe we can watch that movie together sometime this week, I'll call you later to set it up. He leaned in for a moment, gently tilting my face towards his own, then placing a small, longing kiss on my cheek. Don't let tonight get you down, Heath. Good night, Vince. With that, he opened the door for me and I slid into the empty backseat. Too empty, painfully empty. And the taxi started down the street. I turned and tried to spot Heath through the back window. He was still standing by the road, watching me leave, his smile slowly fading. His slender figure grew smaller, smaller and smaller, until finally, among the sea of cars and lights, he disappeared. No. I'm already missing him! Of course. The next evening, I'd still gotten no word of a new mission. After waiting around for a little while, hunger stirred in my stomach, so I decided to drink a blood bag. I squeezed the contents of a bag down my throat. It always felt vaguely unsatisfying. Maybe I could ask room service for a martini glass, and that would make it taste better. Maybe. Have you guys noticed that everything tastes better from a can than from a bottle, for example, or a glass? Maybe. Vince. Excuse me, a moment of your time, please. Just as I was about to leave the hotel, Charisse's agent called out behind me. The evening had been uneventful so far, so I'd figured I was in the clear, but apparently not. Miss Locke would like to speak to you. Alright, where is she? Please head over to the meeting room, she's waiting for you there. Offering me a slightly urgent and easy note, he turned to hurry off somewhere. I could only imagine what had come up this time, but my instincts told me it wasn't going to be good. Vince. How gracious of you to make an appearance. When I entered the meeting room, Charisse rose from her seat, approaching me with slow, deliberate strides. The troubled look in her eyes instantly confirmed my suspicions. Well, I won't mince words. As you might have already guessed, I am in need of your services. Last night there was another murder. Charisse paused for a long few moments, briefly biting her lip. The body was mutilated, his ears and eyes cut out, wires stuffed into the sockets. This makes the third victim of this hidden killer, and only the third victim whose body we've found. There may very well be others who have yet to be uncovered. We can afford to ignore the situation. I agree, they may target you or me next. You are very much correct. It is a great hazard to all of us and needs to be dealt with swiftly. She shook her head intently, letting out a strained sigh. We believe the killer regularly returns to the sewers, where the previous bodies have been found, because the stench makes even distinct scents very difficult to track. However, right before I asked you here, I received a word that my agent lost contact with her partner by the Sunset Strip. She tracked his scent to the sewers, but called for help rather than risk entering by herself. Smart idea, she must have learned from horror cliches, exactly, yeah. Indeed, as cool as it sounds, charging and prepared after a murder to rescue someone is a recipe for death. Now, if we were to send a large group, I have no doubt that our killer would easily realize that they have been discovered. This person must be extraordinarily sensitive to the presence of others, as they've somehow avoided detection so far. Therefore, I intend to send only 2 agents. Kedrick, one of my more combat-skilled assistants, and you. Hang a second, why me? You witnessed the killer's techniques firsthand, and you've already successfully tracked them as well. But the more salient reason is, you're enough of a unique curiosity that I doubt they'll immediately attack you. I know it sounds like a gamble, but you may be the only one capable of reasoning with them. Her brow furrowed into a deep, unhappy line. There are weapons I've left for you at the front desk just in case they're necessary. Good luck, Vince. Make sure you return intact. Everything will go fine, probably. It doesn't sound good. I need to reason with the murder of kindred. When I returned to the lobby's desk, the clerk discreetly handed me a black box. It held an expensive-looking combat knife and a Glock handgun, complete with a small amount of ammunition. My first loot, finally. I tucked the weapons into my jacket, wondering if I'd end up needing them. Outside, Charisse's car was waiting for me. I climbed into the back seat when my partner was already slouched inside. I feel like I need to save the game for some reason. So I will, because I'm afraid that maybe we'll die. Okay, I don't know why Sherry sent you, and honestly I don't really care. Kedrick, a short, tanned man with a hooked nose and beady eyes, gave me a disparaging look. All I need to know is this: what's your combat experience like? I cry when I have to flush a spider down the toilet. Wow. Okay then. That was the extent of our conversation during the car ride. I get you. The perpetually silent driver took us straight to the Sunset Strip, or more accurately, a few blocks down, where the missing agent had disappeared. My senses were already prickling on a high alert as I stepped out of the car. Motioning for me to follow, Kedrick carefully stalked down the nearest alley, one hand tucked into his jacket. Sure enough, a manhole cover on the ground was slightly cracked open, marked by the lingering presence of a vampire. We crawled down the ladder, dropping into the rat-infested depths. The sewer's potent smell instantly clouded my head, and Kedrick wrinkled his nose in disgust. Why'd have to be the sewer? Sherry said they chose it to master sense. I know that, dumbass. Haven't you heard of a rhetorical question? That was one, too, in case you missed. Snorting with contempt, Kedrick pulled out his own gun and started to creep forward. Watch the back, stay close to me. He gestured for me to turn sideways, following him with my back to the wall. I have a slight feeling, because this guy is introduced as a new character and he doesn't have a sprite, he will die very quickly. Just leaving it here. In our cautious formation, we started to slowly move along the sewer path. The acidic smell of vampire blood rose over the stench, taking us deeper into the tunnels. I could tell Kedrick felt just as anxious as I did, maybe more so. His eyes darted around constantly, lips pulled back to show his gritted teeth. As we rounded the next corner, something caught my eye behind us. I instinctively jumped back, squinting to try and make it out, but it was only a rat hopping out of the water. Oh, glad it was nothing. My murmur didn't get a reply. Of course it didn't. Not much of a surprise considering how laconic Kedrick was. I turned around, ready to catch up to him, but he was gone. I could still detect his presence, but it was quickly getting distant. How had he vanished so suddenly? There was only one choice. I had to follow him. If I tried to leave now, the killer could probably grab me before I escaped, and Kedrick might still be alive. Focusing on the scent, I hurried after them, trying to keep my footsteps silent. I could hear the plops. At first, it seemed like they were moving incredibly fast, getting further and further away. But soon I realized I was getting closer. They must have stopped moving. A few steps further, I heard a strange wet sound echoing down the tunnel. Until just around the next corner, I spotted them. A thin, androgynous figure crouched before a limp body. I couldn't tell what they were doing, but I saw their hand repeatedly moving up to their face, then back to the corpse. Their other hand worked in a sewing motion as the awful smell of vampire blood filled the air, I realized they were cutting off Kedrick's flesh. Hands behind your head now! As I shouted to the figure in most commanding voice, their movement stopped. Hello? Usually when a new person arrives and a new sprite shows up, I say, hello, handsome. This time, I'm having troubles with that. He abruptly rose to his feet, jerking towards me. The dim sewer lights flickered over corpse-like skin, a painfully thin body, and a belt of glittering tools. Half of his face was strangely beautiful, and the other half was deeply disfigured. Something screamed at me to look away, but something stronger kept my eyes fixed in place. Oh, hello. The man finally offered a casual greeting, slipping his still dripping scalpel into his belt. Then he lifted a bone-thin arm to wipe off his blood-stained lips, which peeled back to reveal yellowed teeth. Human teeth, not fangs. I was wondering when you'd finally show up. But you had just to bring along a friend, didn't you? His voice didn't match his appearance one bit, a smooth, pleasant baritone rising and falling almost playfully. Well, that's alright. I don't think he'll be eavesdropping on us anytime soon. Have you been the one killing all these vampires? How about I let you work that one out yourself? I've heard you're pretty smart, but I have to say, you're not really showing it right now. Slowly shook his head, giving me an unsettling smile. Right, you don't know who I am, do you? No, of course you wouldn't. You can call me Lazarus. But you might know me as the one who was supposed to get bitten. You mean at the abattoir? What happened? Oh, don't worry, we'll get to that in a second. I want to clear something up though. I am not a murderer. I'm a vampire hunter, which makes me the hero here, not the villain. You know, like soldiers, policemen, the guy who flips the electric chair switch. Killing is always killing, no matter the circumstances. But lives have different values. That's what all the papers say. Lapsing into silence, he gave me a smile that lasted several seconds, growing more unsettling by the moment. I don't know if you've already realized this, but the true power of a vampire doesn't lie in their blood. Blood's only a part of it. The true power's in their flesh. Wait, so that's how you've grown so powerful? It sounds disgusting, doesn't it? You can say it, I won't be offended. Nobody likes a cannibal. Everybody loves PISHA, so, it's fine. But blood drinking, that counts as sexy. It's a shameless stat and Hannibal didn't switch places. He murmured distractedly for a moment, rolling his eyes in obvious scorn. But yes, that's part of the reason why I hunt vampires. The more vampires I kill and eat, the stronger I get. In fact, I've already got more power than a lot of your kind. I guess you could call it a vicious cycle. Why are you so intent on getting power? See, I don't have any big plans, not anymore. I don't want to take over the world, or even Los Angeles. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. He nonchalantly gestured to Kedrick's ripped open corpse, bony shoulders lifting in a shrug. Everybody needs an outlet. Killing is just how I self-medicate. I like difficult hands-on therapy. But I'm a very difficult hands-on person. As if to illustrate the point, Lazarus brushed a palm across his corseted waist. The truth is, I've been hunting vampires for some time now. Used to hunt a lot less often without all the showmanship. I was afraid I'd get caught and killed. Most hunters are. Until one day, Sharice took notice of my efforts and contacted me. His voice abruptly grew strained. He kept smiling at me, but the look seemed frozen on his face, like someone had a gun against the back of his head. She and I, we made a deal. I'd get turned and serve her, and she'd take care of me. It sounded so nice. Lazarus took a long, deep breath, his emaciated chest rising and falling. So there I was, waiting inside the club, ready to graciously accept my promotion. It never came though. My apology afterwards didn't come either. See, at first I thought it might have been God playing one of his bad jokes. When he's not letting kids get raped or giving people cancer, he really likes to torture me. But no, it wasn't God. It was just a guy named Andre. And you know him, don't you? Yes, and he's just another egomaniac. I'm glad we can agree on that. Maybe you do have some taste. He didn't try to hide an obvious mockery in his voice. You see, I captured a Golgotha who told me what happened that night. Andre ordered him to capture the Iscari who was supposed to turn me. Decided to ruin the one thing in life I was looking forward to. And you know what? I don't even care about getting turned anymore. I just want him dead. By the time he trailed off to the last word, Lazarus seemed to be talking to himself more than me. For a short while, he stared past me, his cold eyes vivisecting something unseen. But soon his focus snapped back to my face. Alright, I'm done monologuing, even though all that self-pity feels so nice. I don't have anyone to talk down here, the vampires never listen to me. I guess this is when you try to kill me or capture me, right? Go ahead. Unless you want to make a deal, that is. What kind of a deal? Yeah. A simple one. You don't bother me, I don't bother you. I keep hunting, waiting right here in my filth until it's time for all hell to break loose. When that happens, I'll kill everyone stupid enough to fight you. I only have one condition. When it's all over, you let me take Andre. What do you mean, take him? Lazarus didn't say anything in reply. Instead, he just opened his mouth, grinning at me silently. And with that, we will end this episode because I really want you guys to tell me what you think about this and whether I should agree to his offer or not. Lazarus, the cannibal, the vampire hunter, the human. That's weird. It's very specific, I would say. And as much as he seems to be a complete maniac, I'm tempted. But let me know what you guys think about it and let's see each other in the next episode. Until then, don't get lost in the night. Goodbye.